All right, everyone, welcome back, and happy Thanksgiving for any of those in the U.S. I know it's been a little while, but we're giving a first drive at FSD Beta 10.5, and this is actually my first drive on 10.5 as well. I have planned for us quite a interesting, challenging intersection. So here in Beavercreek, Ohio, we had a new intersection basically put in that does not allow you to cross the highway. You have to essentially make a right turn, then a left turn, and then another right to go straight. So I've had a couple people ask me about it if I've tried the FSD beta on the new intersection. So that's kind of my main goal here, is to try out that intersection. I haven't even driven that intersection manually myself. So we're gonna kind of learn it together with the car and get some general impressions of 10.5 since I haven't used 10.5 at all. So that's where we're at right now. We're about 8 minutes or so from the intersection. I'll probably try to tag in the description of the video when the intersection occurs. That way you can jump to it if you're just interested in checking that out. So like I said, we're going to be about 7 or 8 minutes away. We're going to try. There's quite a few turns that come up and just see what the general impressions are. It handled the neighborhood fine, but I've never really had any problems in our neighborhood there. In general, 10.4 didn't seem to be that much of an improvement from 10.3. Some things definitely seem smoother. I still feel like a lot of the times the car just needs a little bit of a push, so to speak, on some intersections where there's stop signs or blind turns into traffic. It seems to handle the intersection fine, but doesn't always know when it should go, and it's a little skittish. And sometimes you just give it a little tap on the accelerator, it'll go through with that decision. So I think those decisions just need to be a little smoother. I've heard those decisions are supposed to be smoother in 10.5. So we'll see. I don't know if we're going to have any intersections where we have to make turns or anything without traffic control. So we'll see. Right now we're just heading down pretty simple road here. Haven't had many issues myself. I've driven 10.4. I haven't made that many 10.4 videos because most of the driving I've been doing is just to and from work or to and from lunch, so it's pretty much the same roads over and over, and it's doing an excellent job of handling those roads. Like I said, it's repeated for me. Just been pretty busy to really go out and kind of try things. That's why I had an opportunity here for you on Thanksgiving to go give this intersection a shot, see how it handles the difficult situation. I know I've seen people posting on Facebook and stuff about this intersection specifically that it is pretty challenging and people are very confused about what to do. I've looked at the intersection from the map. Google Maps seems to have it correctly mapped out. When I put in the directions seem to have it mapped out, how to properly handle it. It's essentially what happens if you're not familiar with this area. So we're on, it's going to be Route 35 here in Beavercreek, Ohio, and there's an intersection. Route 35 is basically a divided highway, and there's one section of it where a pretty congested road crosses straight across this highway. So you have a divided highway that has to basically come to a complete stop for cross traffic. So they installed this whole new intersection where cross traffic cannot happen. So what happens is, instead of driving across the highway, you have to make a right onto the highway, and then you make a left and essentially make a U-turn and come back the other direction, and then you'll make a right, which will put you as if you had driven straight across it. And this is supposed to help with the congestion and the traffic, because having those kind of continuous traffic lights in the middle of a highway is obviously not ideal when the cross traffic can get pretty backed up. So we're gonna give it a shot, see how it goes. I'm pretty hopeful that it should actually handle it, just because the fact that the navigation is already updated. It's pretty straightforward from a logical standpoint of how it works. You're just making a right turn and then a left turn, and then another right turn. So it should be pretty straightforward. The only thing I'm not sure of that I think it could have some issues with is I don't know what the distance is between making that right turn onto 35 and then having to make the left turn. And I don't know how smooth that transition is in terms of being able to get over lanes, because you're going to have to get over 2 or 3 lanes. And if that gap is very small, as I've seen, FSD has some problems getting over as soon as it needs to. So if you have to get over very quickly, I think it's going to struggle. So we'll see. So we handled this left turn on red just fine. We cut the corner a little bit there, but there were no cars there. So lots of people cut left turns if there's no cars there. So that wasn't that big of a deal. I've definitely noticed it doing, it's acting, in my opinion, a little bit more like a human in terms of sometimes changing lanes when there's a solid line still, but there's a dotted line coming up for like turns, getting into a turn lane a little soon. Like humans are going to do that naturally. A human doesn't look at a solid white line and say, oh, I absolutely cannot cross that. A human can observe the surroundings and know if it's appropriate to cross a line, but that's something I would generally think is harder for a computer to rationalize and take in all those variables. And I feel like it's doing a better job of getting into turn lanes, crossing some of those lines, and really just not having to worry about, acting with an exact routine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop a pin on the other side of this intersection. I want to make sure the car navigation actually does not want us to do that. Alright, I'm going to cancel here because the car navigation is not actually letting us do what I want it to do. So we're going to pull in here real quick. It is trying to route us around the intersection and not actually use it. So let me look here at what we're trying to do. Okay, so it looks like this might be an issue, and this test might not go as well as we wanted it to, because so I checked it on Google Maps, but I didn't check it on the car. If you guys see here in the intersection, this is the intersection I'm talking about, and the aerial is definitely not correct. It wants us to go straight across 35 here, and we're not able to do that. We have to make a right, and then you make a left down here and come back like that, and the nav here does not want to allow us to do that. So we're gonna see. It's gonna try to drive us across. I don't think it's gonna do that. I'm probably gonna have to take over and just do it manually, but let's wing it and see what actually happens here, because I am honestly not entirely sure what it's gonna do, because it can't do that nav, which just surprised me a little bit, because as far as I knew, it worked off of like Google Maps, but that is, Google Maps has this correct. So I am fully expecting things to not go well, so I'm going to stay extra attentive through this intersection, because again here we cannot drive straight across here. So I'm going to try to signal it, maybe take over some points, not others, and see where it can start correcting itself. But I don't anticipate it's going to be able to handle this at all. So I'm just going to pay extra close attention and be ready to take over in different situations. So this definitely appears to be an issue with the nav on the car, not so much the full self-driving ability. So the car wants to go straight across this intersection. It can't. So we have to make a right turn here, and then we would go down a little bit and make a left, essentially a U-turn, to get straight across here. So it's recognizing things properly. We cannot go straight. You can see cones everywhere here. But so it's going to have us follow these cars in front of us and go right. And there are traffic lights here. It's recognizing the traffic lights. It put us in the correct lane. There's 2 lanes here. Since we're trying to get on the other side, we want to be in this lane. This lane, then we'd have to jump some lanes of traffic. So that's good. But we're going to see if it actually tries to turn us down. Oh, so it just, that was not good. It changed lanes on us. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, it does not know what to do at this intersection at all. Yep. Yeah, this is just a... So what we would have had to have done back there is make a left, and I didn't talk through it so much because I was trying to make sure the car wasn't doing anything wrong. So when we got forced to that turn, the car just rerouted us down this road further to find an old exit. It did not recognize, the navigation did not recognize the fact that we could have gone across there. So not a whole lot we can do there. I was not happy with, the one thing it did do that was definitely incorrect is, if you saw on that turn there, I had said it did the right thing by putting us in the left of the 2 lanes, which was correct, but as the light went green, it jumped us over. Like, we crossed into that other turn lane before we even got into the intersection. I'm not really sure why it did that. I know it was confused because we were making a turn that was not a turn in the nav that it had. So I'm going to chalk that up as a failure by the nav, not necessarily a failure by the FSD itself. Since it did not have the good information to go on, it didn't really know where it was going. So it's not that it failed at performing any of the turns or anything, it just was not capable of, it didn't have the right data there. So that is definitely something to take note of, that whatever the source material is for the maps, it is not correct, and it was correct on Google Maps. I didn't confirm in the car before we started this drive, but I confirmed on Google Maps on my phone that the intersection was properly laid out. I put the nav in, and it was supposed to go around. It was supposed to handle the intersection the updated way, and the nav in the car did not have that data updated. So that is definitely something to consider, that their repository of maps, wherever it's coming, their navigation is not being updated for changes, at least as quickly as Google Maps. And as far as I'm aware, that intersection has been fixed or has been updated for weeks now, at least a couple weeks, if not a month. So I would have hoped that stuff would have gotten updated. So we're at a red light here, and we should be making a right on red here. I got no one behind me, so I didn't egg the car on too much here, but there's no reason. Let me try to, I'm going to give it a little bit of an acceleration and nudge it and see if I can convince it to make this right on red. Okay, there we go. All right, I just had to I gave it a tiny bit of gas. We nudged up there, and then it finished the rest of the turn on itself. So I'm not sure why it didn't try to do that right on red. There was no signs or anything. It should have done the right on red. I guess I'll go ahead and we'll mark that one. That's not an intersection. I haven't done that intersection before, so I was unclear of how it would handle that. So we're just going to work our way back home. I'll keep this drive going a little bit. We'll get some turns in here for the nav to make this a little more interesting. So we should be making a turn at this light here. See if it's willing to make this right on red. On its own. Yep, so it handled that right on red just fine. It slowed down. There's nothing coming. Okay, so I'm just going to navigate back home. Like I said, the purpose of this video is just to give you guys kind of a little bit of an update. A new video out there. I really wanted to try out that intersection, but if we learned anything, it wasn't a lack of FSD capability. It was more of a lack of the nav. So we learned that the maps or the data that Tesla's pulling from for the navigation is not as updated as Google Maps, and is certainly at least a few weeks behind, because that intersection has been updated. It's not like it just opened up a day or so ago. It's been at least a few weeks, if not a month, as I said before. So that is maybe concerning if you're in areas that have a lot of construction and stuff like that. So we made a left on red here. This is pretty smooth, no problems there. Good job. So yeah, it's something to consider if you're in an area that has a lot of construction going on in terms of the nav being correct. But that's something you can kind of plan for. Like you can see through the maps if it's going to be correct or not. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I do appreciate everyone tuning in for my first shot at 10.5. Tried that intersection in Beavercreek. It did not work out because of the nav. Hopefully that gets updated. I'll check back, and if once I see the navigation updated, I'd really like to give the FSD a shot at that intersection. So we'll have to see. Again, I appreciate everyone coming out. Please like, subscribe to the channel. I link my Twitch channel in there as well. I usually stream on Twitch 2 days a week, where I'm more than happy to talk about my experiences here, Tesla in general. I'll kind of talk about whatever. And again, thanks. Everyone have a rest of your happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the holidays coming up.